All right. My apologies, people. Can you guys hear me now? Anybody give me a one if you can hear me. Anybody? Okay, now I see some ones. All right. It's going to be one of those days I see. My goodness. Anyway, welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope everybody's well. What's up, Dr. Gamble? What's going on with you? See everybody in the house. Shout out to those who came through. I played some catch up here. I had everything set and had to reboot. Oh, what's going on now? Oh, there it is. Hold on. There it is. I see what's happening. Okay, so we should be good, hopefully, provided we don't get any more surprises like that. But I think we are doing well. So, a lot of things to cover. Unfortunately, I had everything set up and had to reboot. So, I'm hoping that this will be the worst of it. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up one of my guests now, since we started on unorthodox yet again. And always better when I bring him in. So let me go ahead and bring in Brother BGS. What's good with you, man?
Hey, Doc, what's happening?
And everything.
We build a plane as we fly it, right?
Yeah, but we've been flying this joint for a minute. I thought it would be better now, but
Hey, there's always a screw loose, man, somewhere.
It was weird. Everything seemed normal, and then my computer did this weird glitch, and nobody could hear me. So anyway, so we're back into it. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel if you will. You can see the ways to do so on the screen. So please make sure you do that so we can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. So we got Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Patreon, and of course the super chat here on YouTube. So take advantage of one of them and support the show. I think Urban Naturalist Apothecary, appreciate the support. I think that's the only one we've gotten so far. But y'all please donate and continue to support so we can keep it going. Shout out to Hurricane Greg. Appreciate that. 10 spot. Thank you. Okay. So we got a few things that I wanted us to get into. And I was talking to BGS about this last night. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'll go wait till the brother gets into it. But before
we gonna keep it Dr. Johnson PC. So we're gonna
decide on that.
If I get Hasan started, we will all be off the air. So because Hasan ain't got no sense. So Dr. Johnson gonna have to kind of contain both of us today. So
I ain't containing you. I'm gonna let you know now. You go ahead and say what you gotta say. But we're gonna cover a few things. So obviously you guys can see that the subject matter has to do with this question of the table. And the table, well, shit. I mean, I don't even have to paraphrase or translate. I got the originator now on here with me. Tell folks about what the table is and how it came about.
Okay, the table is actually the idea about the table, what you bring to the table, all that kind of stuff, been there for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And for Manosphere 2.0 or the Black Manosphere 2.0, Obsidian, his whole cause was pointing out, black female fuckery and getting black women back to the table to horse trade with black men. Okay, that was his whole thing from the very beginning. He said it his very first broadcast. He's been consistent all the way through, right? Mm-hmm. And so the table is basically the negotiation and conversation between black men and black women. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all it is. It's not them coming back with on their knee pads with services and apple pies. It's about you sitting down and having a frank talk with black females one way or the other and doing a negotiation. And negotiations aren't always successful. Sometimes, one party will walk away, say it's not good enough, which is fine with things, but you have to come to the table and actually state your claim and state your claims on both sides. That's what the whole table thing was about. Horse trading. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
okay, and it got to a point where people were questioning about the value of it. Does it still have a place now, and so on and so forth? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple. Shout out to Malika. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to so many brothers in the chat. Indigo, Chef Mike, what's good?
Mm-hmm.
Passport OG, Muwada, good to see you. Spain Man, Cameron was good. Donnie, Sun God, Raheem, Prince. Shout out to all the brothers in the chat. I apologize if I missed you. Trust me, it isn't personal at all. Um, just trying to get this thing off the ground here. But there are a variety of different types of people that have been showing up to the table lately. And the
Mm-hmm.
status of women has been real interesting to kind of look at, especially in this last few weeks. And there are some that I kind of wanted to get to. Shout out to Reginald, who just became a new member. Welcome to the Onyx Brotherhood. Good to have you in here. Tim, what's up? So I wanted to kind of cover a few, and I'll just bring them in. I had them all queued up, but all of that got erased. So y'all know what it is. We got to do it how we do it. But in terms of this whole discussion about where we are, one of the deepest issues that Black men face is how embedded anti-Black misandry has become in African American culture. So let's look at a few clips to kind of give us a framework where some of this actually is in this current conversation of the table. This is shout out to Art Kathy. Y'all saw me play this once before. If not, check it out.
But it's okay to hate the Black man. Black men, I'm gonna say it from me to you. This is just straight up. Black women, 80% of them, they don't like you. 80%, I'm probably sure it's more, but at least 80% of Black women in this day and age, it don't matter how old or young they are, they have a general dislike and hatred for you. That's your real climate, brother. See, I'm not telling you something that you ain't already felt. I'm telling you something that you know. I think it's more too. I truly think it's more too. I think it's more too. And I'm tired of being the one that's not talking about it. I've said this. This is one of the main reasons I don't have a lot of Black female friends. I really don't, y'all. I don't. I couldn't imagine what it would be like as a Black man to want to fuck these bitches, to want to wife them up and have babies. But the majority of your population, you want a Black woman, right? But these hoes is crazy. These hoes really crazy out here. Like, it's an abundance of you that think that all men are dogs, but we all know it means Black men. You don't ever roast white men, Mexican men, Indian men, Asian men. You don't ever have nothing bad to say about them. But when we say all men are dogs, you really think it's Black men that are dogs. Let's just call a thing a thing. 2021, I swear to God, this the year where the truth about to rain on your head, because we can't even hide from it. You're showing us exactly how you feel. We can have a real conversation with you. If you're on Clubhouse, follow me on Clubhouse at ArtCathy1. There are rooms. I saw a room the other night, and it doesn't matter where I am. You can just overhear Black women talking about the relationship conversation, and I'll be like, oh Lord, here we go with this shit. Because the undertone of all relationship conversations is Black men ain't shit. Why these Black men ain't doing this? I can't bond with y'all, sis. I cannot bond with y'all when you have a general dislike and vitriol and hatred for our male counterpart. Do you not understand how goddamn psychotic that is? They're psychotic. I mean, too many insecure, emotional.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Kathy, breaking it down.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about that before I bring up the next example?
Well, you already know what I've been saying for years since you met me, right? Black when Kevin said the same thing. He actually proved the same thing, right? Black women historically carry a low-level contempt and hatred of their men, of Black men. They have for 100, 200 years. Hasn't changed. Throughout their literature, their history, the demographics, what they do, so it's still there. Okay, you can't get past it.
Mm-hmm.
So that love, that psychotic love-hate relationship, okay, that we have with our women, that's where it comes from, and it comes from the process of slavery and Jim Crow,
Yeah.
and what we had to go through to actually survive this process. So it's embedded into the culture. So she said 80%. I'd say like 90. I'd say 100% personally.
Well,
At some level.
let me yet again shout out Wrench Turner for that generous donation. He says, "On the wood as all brothers should support Black male media." Appreciate that. I'll show you another example. This one I just ran across the other day.
Okay.
Here we go. So this is Nicole Michelle, right? Nicole Michelle drops a word. She actually drops two in the same post, but this is the first one. So she says, "Finally admitted to myself what I didn't want to. A lot of women have feminist views or flat out dislike/distrust men as people, but are complaining that men don't want to pay all their bills. I wouldn't want to pay bills for or commit to anyone who doesn't like me either." And then she goes on to say, when she posts it, just note, ladies, when many of you speak, people hear pain and trauma. Pain doesn't attract the best men. We are all grown and responsible for our own healing and maturity. Man isn't motivated to step into the role of your father unknowingly. When you speak about luxury, this and buy me that comes off like daddy issues. A man wants to make the woman he loves life easier because he wants to not be guilt tripped into anything. It's a lot of crappy men out there. Don't choose them. Choose a man that wants you. Stop trying to force it with guys you find sexy but don't like you like that. You went through a rough time as a child, not your fault. Refusing to get healing as a grown woman, the onus is on you, respectively. And let me go ahead now and bring in the good G with the PhD. What's good with you, man?
There he is. Who we got? We got the PhD. We got the G today.
You got both of them simultaneously, man.
Batten down the hatches.
Batten down the hatches. Okay.
Hey, man. You know they're both in me, man. Two sides of the same coin.
What's up? Shout out to Ghetto User for that support. Says in the house and support for Dr. T and carrying the reality of Black men and boys. Much appreciated. So we were talking about, some of the kinds of different situations, and I was, kind of talking a little bit about anti-Black misandry and where that tends to play in some of this. But we also have that expressed in a variety of ways. We got the divorce crew, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this group. As a matter of fact, there's been a recent new addition to that crew. I got to open these one at a time now. Here we go. So let me share the screen and get these in here. So I'm sure you guys have witnessed this recent thing.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So, I thought I lost you guys for a second. There we go. So Tina Knowles files for divorce from actor Richard Lawson after 8 years of marriage and a series of public embarrassments, I would argue, in terms of her treatment of him in the larger scheme. I'm not going to go through the article, but I will put the link in the description for those who are interested. But I just put this up as a small sampling of the types of women we're talking about. You know what I mean? So you do have the kind of Shahrazad Ali crew, the Art Cathys, who are willing to be honest with you, and tell you what's going on. You got the divorce crew that have no problem taking you for whatever you're worth. Oh, shout out to Grinch. Good to see you, fam.
What up, Grinch?
Talk to Grinch in a minute. So you got that whole crew in there. You have the crew that's been socialized with high unreasonable expectations in men, and we're going to come back to them because I think that's a great deal of the crux of the problem. But we also have to acknowledge something that we've seen in the last few weeks, but I haven't heard enough conversation about, and those are the ones who have been losing it, and I mean that. I'll give you a couple of examples because I can't really make it up. This is the first one. So let's check.
A woman is in the Harris County jail. This is after officers say that she took them on a high-speed chase and used her own daughter as a shield in the standoff. That's right. Fox 26 is.
Shout out to Thinking Man's Templar. I got this clip from one of his more recent videos. Check it out.
Sherman Sell joining us live in the newsroom to break down what happened. Sherman.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. Some images from the police officer's body camera show the moment 35-year-old Tanisha Selena Henry put her daughter in a chokehold as police had their weapons drawn. Now, before we show you that, here's a timeline of what police say happened. Last Thursday around 9 p.m., the Western Police Department received an alert from the Bel Air Police Department about a suspect vehicle involved in a theft case in that city. Webster officers located the car and they attempted to pull the car over in the 500 block of Bay Area Boulevard for a broken light. And that's when the chase started. Precinct 8 constable deputies also got involved in this. Police say Henry was speeding on the Gulf Freeway service road, going over 100 miles per hour. She then made a U-turn and drove the wrong way on the southbound service road. Police say that car that Henry was driving eventually ran out of gas on Cullen, and when Henry got out of the car, she pulled her 14-year-old daughter out of the car with her, placed her in a chokehold, and used her as a human shield, asking police to shoot. Officers say the child was visibly distraught. Deputies were able to get behind Henry, tase her, and place her in custody. Now, Henry, of course, has a long criminal history of evading arrest, theft, and forgery in Florida. Police found stolen Texas IDs, debit and credit cards, and insurance information inside that car. She now faces several federal charges, including endangering a child. Reporting from the newsroom, Sherman DeSell, Fox 26 News.
Using her child as a shield. Sherman, thank you.
Right. So you're not imagining things. We've been seeing this happening time and time again in strange contexts. This is one, I think this is one I told people about during one of your last shows, BGS. This was pretty recent. A woman walking around naked in a supermarket, smearing herself with vegetables. I mean, with cakes, excuse me, right? This is what we're seeing.
Yep, they're losing it. Yeah, economic stress. Yeah, will cause that.
Yeah,
uncertainty. Yeah, people break, psychologically.
I'm waiting to hear, what Gigi thinks as well about this kind of tangent, because in this we're also including some of the things we've seen internationally, right? We saw the Dubai young woman who tried to cuss out somebody, got her passport taken. The black woman in Italy who got beat up at a hotel for disregarding the rules. We're seeing these kinds of acts. But Gigi, do you have any impression as to why this is happening?
I kind of want to echo what BGS says. It's a lot of economic uncertainty. We just got out of the COVID quarantine, and a lot of the safeguards that were put in place during that time have begun to attenuate, and so a lot of evictions are taking place. A lot of money and resources have been taken back, and so this is what it causes. It causes a great deal of stress. I can't really speak for what went down in Dubai or whatever, but I just think that that's a feature and a function of American women just being able to, kind of fly off at the handle, and it be perceived as something that's external to them rather than, some flaw in their own agency, some kind of flaw in their own character. And not to say all women have this, but, it's just encouraged in this culture, for women to act out and to not really actually have to pay any consequences for having acted out. So,
yeah. And well, we also have to add Carly Russell to this list.
Oh, yeah.
Fabricating, this her own kidnapping, that whole kind of deal. Let's go ahead and throw another one.
Traffic lanes, a naked woman
on there. So I didn't mean for it to start up right at that moment, but this is in the Bay Area, not far from Oakland. Here you have a woman who stopped her car in the middle of the freeway, and y'all check it out for yourselves.
And armed with a gun and shooting at passing vehicles.
It's a lady.
Whoa! This dangerous and bizarre scene unfolding on the Bay Bridge right near the Oakland Toll Plaza.
She ran out.
She ran out?
Yeah, the gun's...
Holy dude.
Wow.
A number of drivers calling 911 and dispatchers alerting all available units to the threat.
Again, she's completely naked out of the vehicle now. She is shooting at a car now. Again, she's shooting at vehicles now. But she is actively shooting.
Two co-workers were heading across the bridge when they came upon a car parked sideways and blocking multiple traffic lanes.
Wow.
That's when they noticed the naked woman.
I heard the pop. Yeah. Like I saw her walking around, and I was like, oh, that's a gun. That's actually a gun. How do I get out of here? I can't just stay here. We're sitting ducks. You have nothing but a windshield protecting us.
That woman later dropping the gun and then arrested by responding officers.
That front row seats, man. It's buns and guns right now, man.
It's not known if any of the shots she fired actually hit any vehicles. She's currently in custody.
Can't take you nowhere, Doc.
Mental evaluation
Buns
at a
and
local
guns.
hospital. Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by...
So you guys,
how do you even just say, hey, my name is such and such, and after seeing something like that, how do you keep a straight face, man, and go on? I don't know, but yeah. my viewpoint on it is, you know, like if that was a brother
Oh
standing
yeah,
on the highway naked, shooting a
gun.
pistol,
Oh yeah.
he probably would have been gunned down.
Yeah.
You know, black men get gunned down for having wallets and cell phones and toy guns and things of this nature, let alone having a real gun in the middle of a freeway butt naked.
Yes.
With his junk hanging out. Oh my God, that would have been cause for immediate elimination. Bye-bye.
Real talk. Real talk. And we're seeing this. But the one thing I noticed that seems to be, and shout out to Dr. Thunder, I see you in there, man. One of the things that I find is interesting about all of these different examples is they all seem like a cry for attention. They all seem like, you know, that they're looking for some kind of, because you notice even the woman on the freeway, she shot her gun several times, but apparently she didn't hit anything. And that's interesting. So you're gonna get out on the freeway naked and start shooting, but never hit anything. That to me strikes as a serious and, you know, psychologically deficient, you know, in some way, cry for attention.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not saying that's all it is, but I'm saying that I think attention is a factor in this. You know, but I don't know. What do y'all think?
It is a cry for help. You number one, you turn your car sideways in the middle of a busy freeway. You come over, jump out naked, and top it off with a gun that you don't kill anybody. It's a cry for attention. She needed help. She didn't know how to ask for it.
Yeah, that's somebody who wants to be institutionalized. I mean, what other alternative do law enforcement officials have other than to institutionalize you after something like that? I mean, you know, there's no other option.
Right.
Yeah.
But
You're
I mean, you know,
to yourself and other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's a feature and a function of you know, the pressure of Western society, in particular the United States culture, just kind of bearing down on black women. I mean, and I don't take pleasure in this. You know, it's just it's a rough system. You know. You know, but there's ways to go about getting help. And one thing I've always said, you know, we tend to highlight and underscore black men's misdeeds. But when it comes to other people's or other demographics' misdeeds or their lack of virtue or their exhibition of vice, we don't have an explanation for it. That comes from an internal source. All we have is external explanations for why they're doing what they're doing. Okay. But when it comes to black men, you know, it's some lack of moral virtue that they're displaying or exhibiting, or some, you know, ethical misdeed or something of that nature, right? So you can't really explain what's going on with black men by means of explanatory or circumstantial explanations. It's something, you know, that basically boils down to the lack of character. So yeah, it's different.
Well, and it's interesting that from Dubai to Texas,
right,
the Bay Area to all the places we're seeing these things, none of these women lost their lives. Because what you just described, Gigi, as far as the perspective on black men, that's used as grounds to take life for us. You don't see that here in any of these instances, and yet and still there's a clear issue going on. And I do think it's a response to the economic environment, but also the social environment, right? You know, because we've heard this question about finding the right man, finding husbands. We've heard this for years. And then we've also heard the backlash from women in those same discussions about how they don't need men, especially black women. They don't need men. They don't need relationships. So we're looking at the fallout of this back and forth tug and pull in terms of women's own capacity for stability in the midst of all of this chaos.
Right.
The core of why I asked these two gentlemen to join me tonight is a video that was sent to me by my brother from Oakland. Shout out to him. And he's coming out of the conscious community, and he shared with me one of the current conscious community standpoints, especially in regard to black women, on this whole question of relationships and so on and so forth. So I asked each of these brothers to come, you know, watch the video and give me their thoughts about it. But let me first shout out is that Golpi benevolent dictator. Money for the plate. Peace to the panel in the chat. Gold Professor. Appreciate that support. Shout out to Dardar for the tuition support. Appreciate that. Shout out to Salty Balls. Yeah, he be killing me every time with that, man. Shout out to Salty Balls, man. Appreciate the support. But this is it. So let me go ahead and put this up. And you guys can give us your sense as well of what you think this is. But let's listen to what the perspective coming out of the quote unquote conscious community is in regard to this whole issue of the table.
Here's a message for Black women specifically. Black women specifically. Let the table break. Let the building collapse. Let the ship sink. Let things go to the wayside. Sometimes the best thing that we can do is let things fall apart and teach others to rely on themselves, just like they taught you to rely on you. Because when people feel or experience, usually, hopefully, the same things as you are, they have better empathy and understanding of what it means to be you. You make it look easy. It is not. And I salute you. And that is why I'm telling you to let things hit the fan, to let the ship sink. Step to the side, put on your life jacket first, and deal with everything else after.
All right, fellas.
Yeah.
Go ahead, BGS. Give us your thoughts.
You know what? That's why I said the table is important, right? So because we have a lot of guys in this space and other spaces, right? Black guys that want to rescue the Black community. Okay. In other words, if you act better, she'll act better. Okay. She wants you to come back to the table. She wants you. They want a Black community. They want this, that, the other. Thing is, I want women to say exactly that. Let the community go. Let it break. Let the ship sink. Right. In other words, everybody for themselves. Right. And I wish more Black women would actually be honest, just like her. They're not trying to save it. Okay. So why are they trying to press you to doing something extraordinary, trying to save something that they don't believe in anymore? Right. But they would just heard it from her. And she's a nationalist. She's conscious community. She's Pan-Africanist. Right. And she's saying, let it break. Let it go. We're not going to negotiate. Right. We're at the table. Let it go. In other words, I'd rather see it fail. Say what, Doc?
Nationalism. She has goddess tattooed on her chest, so you know. That's
you know what that means. You respect the queen, right, or something like that. But what I'm saying is, she's not a ratchet. She's not a run of the mill, feminist chick, right? She's, she's on that tip, on that Black community tip. And if she says let it go, let it fail, then you got your message. In other words, SYSBM, right? They're not coming to save you. There's the thing is their sense of protection, what they call their protection, right? Okay. And I've said this before, right? They think they're protected. They think they're helping you. They think they're saving you, right? But guess what? You go to jail more than anybody. You're homeless more than anybody. Okay. You're uneducated more than anybody. Okay. You die more than anybody. Okay. Now, your boys are more abused than anybody. Okay. So how are they protecting us? How are they saving us from what? Okay. They're saving us from white supremacy. They think the white man's going to jump over and basically slaughter us all. Is that what they're thinking? I don't know. I don't know why they think they're the buffer. So they think that they're oppressed and that nobody helps them and they don't get any help and they don't get any money or features, something like that. They have to do it for themselves and they get more help than anybody. But they've become so accustomed to it that they think that just by their sheer magnitude and their magic and who they are, and all their skills, they can just be this regular individual, and they're not.
Huh? Gigi, any thoughts about this, man?
I was just wondering, maybe she didn't get the memo, but I mean, Black women have already broke the community by buying into bourgeois white women's bullshit from the outset. Nothing new to me. And so they kill me, if you ask me. And they're protesting, in my viewpoint, Black men's ability to give them a luxurious or a kind of like a high or upper middle class lifestyle. Like, why are you blaming Black men for this? Like, I just, if you are conscious, or even if you're an academician and you're a feminist, like, what don't you understand about the civil rights movement and where it was headed to next? I just don't get it. So everybody's worried about recognition and being honored and being seen and being, recognized. But we're not worried about what the core of, the civil rights movement was actually about, especially its next phase, which is distributive justice, economic justice. You're talking about a group of people who've been subjected to slavery and Jim Crow for 300 and plus years. And the easy part was the part that took place in the South. And the leaders knew that. And the next part would be more abstract, but it would be predicated upon like lifting up black folks related to economic or distributive justice. And we just forgot about that. Like nobody's even worried about that at all anymore. It's just about various identity groups pushing and clamoring for as much recognition and esteem they can get from corporate, government, or academic agencies or institutions, which that's not radical. It's not revolutionary. It's not pro-black. It's just some token nigga shit. I'm just keeping it real, man. I'm just like, I'm being perfectly honest about this. And it's not woke. If anything, it's, being in a zombie-like state, if you want to call being a zombie woke, being in a liminal state between being dead and conscious. That's what it is, if you ask me. It's not woke at all. It's like being like one of the living dead. Okay? To think that you're actually moving or arcing towards justice by, being mired in identity politics and seeking recognition from people who have never recognized you. And while you're doing all of this, the economic pot for the average American is shrinking, slowly receding, okay? Like a tide kind of, receding back into the ocean. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me, but this is where we are now. So it's one thing to be upset at a man because some of the things that they've actually done, but it's absolutely ridiculous to have an issue with black men because you have an issue with the economic landscape or distributive justice issues in the United States. And then you blame that on the people from your own race who are men who've been subjected to the same kind of, distributive injustice for the past, I don't know what, hundreds of years. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm lost. And I'm lost that they're lost because they should know better.
Right. Trying to return and said, "We are goddesses, also black women, benevolent, high-speed chase." Oh.
I just want you to think about this, man. Like, you got a group of women mad that black men can't wine and dine them and treat them like some kind of spoiled-ass housewife with luxury items.
With luxury items, yeah.
Right?
But
And like I said before, I didn't tweet you, but I texted you about this. I basically said, the bad thing about it is that you have academicians who are co-signing this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And then basically saying that, okay, but since, the economic injustice issues are directed towards black men, then maybe perhaps, we could save black women by having them, divest, by go out and dating white men. Maybe that's the way to solve the issue. So instead of talking about structural issues related to distribution and economic fairness in the country, fuck it, just go get you a white guy. And this is this is offered up as a realistic solution,
right,
to the problems that people are encountering, and increasingly they're going to begin to impact not only black people, okay, but lower and middle class white folks as well, okay. Because, we understand that the economy is a service-based economy that's predicated upon financialization. That's just the way that it is, okay? I don't know if people know what the financialization of the economy is, but I would suggest that you do an internet search and find out what it is, okay? But to blame that on black men, it's lunacy.
Very true. Very true. All I was going to add to what you said a moment ago when you talked about luxury, it's one thing when men are expected to provide it upon meeting and dating a woman, but that's not where we are now anymore. We're at a place where you can be married for a decade or more, and you're expected to still provide those resources, mainly to prevent her from getting bored.
Yeah.
This is where we are. You have people that are upset, not that the guy they're dating doesn't wine and dine them. They're upset about that. But you have women that have been married for years. They're upset that their husbands don't find new and interesting ways to continue to wine and dine them in the midst of an economy that's going all kinds of left.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that make sense in this reality? And yet it's still an expectation of men. And that's just one dimension of it. But to me, the video itself, we're talking about somebody who, for the most part, let me just put her up here so we can at least
usually.
Right. So we're talking about, we're talking about somebody that, for the most part, we're seeing an arrogance born of an entitlement.
Yes.
Where she came to this and there was no acknowledgement that women may have had some role, Black women in particular in the Black community, may have had some role to play in where things are. That's not at all her approach. Her approach is simply that, these Negroes are so ungrateful, just let the table fall. Now, for those that want to say that I do the same because I don't point out Black men's foibles, let me be clear. Black men's foibles have been pointed out ad nauseum for decades, for generations. There's no point in my lifetime, and I'm almost 5 decades strong, where I haven't heard Black men's foibles, problems, issues laid out there. Hasn't been a time frame I'm familiar with where I haven't seen that shit. So I don't talk about them because you don't need me to talk about them. You got an established media system that's functioning on corporate dollars that does it all day. And you have a group, a demographic of Black women in particular, who have access to media that double down on it. So I'm not saying Black men don't have our issues. I'm saying they've been laid out ad nauseum. But you know what hasn't been, is at least until recently, is what Shahrazad was trying to talk about 20, 30 years ago. And that's that Black men's contributions to the state of the community are not the only contributions to be talked about in regard to where we are. And Black men have only recently started to do that, relatively speaking.
Right.
And when we do, what's the response? Let the table fall.
Let the table fall, yeah. In other words,
just real quick, I said this a couple years ago. I said, I've seen more people frustrated about a guy on YouTube with 1 million subs than the fact that so much of the negative misandry shit that I've read was required reading in college and grad school, undergrad and grad school. I had to read that shit in class to get a degree. So far, I haven't heard of anyone that had to watch Kevin Samuels to get a degree. And yet and still, we're in this place where you got people upset at Black men for finally speaking up. And there's generations of Black women that have been tearing down Black men and they don't see it. So they come to the table like this woman here, entitled as hell, talking about, let the table fall and let them learn how much they'll need us.
Yeah.
That might be a problem for you when you find out that Black men have options that Black women don't. Let's just say the shit. Because Rebecca Lynn Pope tried to make this argument. She said there were millions of non-Black men that wanted Black women. Word. Okay, well, let there be. Good luck with that. But unless you're willing to actually help provide a brother peace, I'm suggesting to brothers, man, find your peace wherever the fuck you find it. You know what I mean? Excuse my language, but I don't give a damn where you find it from. Find it. And don't apologize for wherever you find it.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna critique you.
And if you forget, forget that, play that TikTok again.
You
play it again. I want guys come to the table and keep playing this very video over and over and over again. When Umar comes up and tries to shame me to come back to the community and take care of women's bastard kids that they had I keep hearing this on these dating shows, 4 different babies by 4 different guys. Okay, how come we didn't marry one of them? Well, he's abusive, or he's not right, or he's in jail. Okay, whatever it is, right? But they want you to come down and put on your cape and rescue these women that want the table to burn. Okay, because they don't want to put any kind of effort to actually change, or maybe they can't change. I don't know. I'm getting to the point where they might not be able to change. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, my viewpoint on it is, and I know it's not really the subject for this, but it is a plug, because I want to do this show. I don't know if I'll be able to do it tonight. I would like to do it tonight, but I don't know if I can get you all's participation to do it, because I don't want to take it on alone. But like, men are in crisis. Black men have been in crisis. And because white women hijacked the civil rights movement and allowed you, to come in the back door and to take, advantage of some of the boons that they received. Now, all of a sudden, you feel like you're better than us now. You're highbrow now. You got your ass on your shoulders now. Men have been in crisis, and now white men are in crisis. because of what white women have done. I mean, they basically hijacked the civil rights movement and took everything that was intended for people who have been subjected to slavery for 243 years and then for Jim Crow for another 100 years. White women just said, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the extent to which black women rather, were able to enjoy a double minority status predicated upon the legislation that passed and the policies that were put into place. Now, all of a sudden, they feel brand new, and that, like, the people who were left out, of course, black men were left out, okay? We're men. So they just kind of doubled down on the anti-man speak, and it all started in the 70s with the black feminists. We're talking about how abused they were and how chauvinistic and how, sexist black men were. And, it's not really helping that, you got black women that kind of like vacillate and oscillate back and forth between,
Right.
wanting a man to provide for them and them wanting to be independent and self-sufficient. It's like you're sending out mixed messages. I mean, do you want a man to take care of you, or do you want to take care of yourself? And the extent to which you want to take care of yourself, what you pissed off about a man for? And then, like, if you're entering schools and you're getting jobs and you're taking care of yourself, then, like, why are you still holding on to the standards of traditional masculinity and femininity if this is what you push for? So, like we are still in the middle, really, of, I think, like, a social experiment, and it's not really going well. People don't, and this thing hasn't settled. You know what I mean? Like, it's a storm that's winding down. Right. Or maybe it's a storm that's still in the middle of it. I don't know.
It's how the butterfly has to destroy the cocoon. The caterpillar to emerge. Okay, that's what's happening right now. I call this right now is called feminism with patriarchal characteristics. Okay, they want the privileges of feminism, but they still want the duties of men to actually be bestowed upon them. Right. In other words, I still want my patriarchal privileges from men, which is child support, alimony, paying for things, demanding he make more. In protecting and providing, okay? So it's psychotic.
It's schizophrenic. That's the best way to explain it. It's everywhere and nowhere. It's all over the place. It's like taking feces and throwing it on the wall and acting like it's art. This is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're seeing a situation where you have women that want to be pedestalized the way white women are, but they also want to have power the way white men do, and have it specifically over us. This is why we've described a gynocracy as almost a female patriarchy.
Yeah.
But they want to pick and choose the aspects of patriarchy that are fun and useful in the moment, but they don't want any of the responsibility that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why there's such a confusing state of affairs, because women have been able to reestablish and reinterpret and reframe their own identity and their gender roles, if there are any, and so on and so forth. But men's roles are to stay static. In order for them to do that, our roles have to be static. So when we still talk about roles to this day, even feminists have no problem with saying that men are supposed to be providers, or at least if they don't say it, they damn sure expect it.
Expect it, yes.
Your role is still static. Her role gets to float with the wind and her whim and her mood. And all of that gets to shift, and you are supposed to provide the stability, for her to be able to be whatever special snowflake she wants to be on a given day, right? But just as we saw earlier, how some women are starting to severely crack under the pressure of this, the remedy to that used to be a man, used to be a family, used to be a framework where she could operate in to keep her from losing it. But we were told that none of that was necessary. Right? Most particularly in regard to men. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. He says the primary issue is that her suggestion presupposes that the developed world by men would still exist. Now that's a luxury.
Yeah, we go look at the movie The Power, and what was it? Why the Last Man? Right. Seriously, The Power is predisposes that the world is actually going to stand if they dominate men. If men are not a part of it.
Yeah. But to so casually get up here and basically just, say, well, disregard them.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well,
yeah.
If that's what you want, but you're not reading the room, because black men have been talking about this already. And black men have already implemented their own responses to this. And this is where you start to see these kind of old and almost 1980s based Black feminist responses, as really outdated, because men have already made plans. We've actually seen women slowly start to recognize these cats are on planes with luggage.
Good luggage, and have women picking them up from the airport.
Yeah, and not only picking him up, but his new friend to meet her new friend in the car. And what did the sister say when she was in Colombia? She said, I spent 2 weeks there. She said, I didn't see none of those brothers out in the streets. She said they weren't at the clubs, they weren't out the streets, they were at the airport when they came, and might have made it back to the airport when she left, but they weren't in the streets.
Oh, in the streets, they had a relationship.
Yeah. Brothers have started to shift this. So this whole question of what to do about the table, I wanted you to see the context for my question. And that had a lot to do with what she was asking. In the midst of all of this craziness, whether we're talking about women breaking down or divorcing men for money or status or whatever, in the midst of all of this chaos, right? We have this idea operating that, men are the problem. We just need to walk away and let it fall because they need to learn how much they need us.
He didn't have that's exactly what she was saying. Sometimes things have to fall just so they can actually appreciate what we brought to the table, what we brought. Come back on your hands and knees.
Yeah, because there's also an air of these men need to catch up and understand what we've been doing for them, and because they're so ungrateful, they need to learn the hard way, just like they taught us the hard way that we had to rely on ourselves. Meaning that y'all were so trifling. That they had to become super women because of how trifling Black men. So she's basically saying you got to go through the same experience before you're really ready to be at our level.
Right.
Not really.
In other words, the same old trope even before Black women became feminists, right? That they're the backbone of the community. They're the ones that hold the whole community up by the strength of their will, and Black men are just these trifling dudes that they can't get it together. If it wasn't for them, the whole community would fall apart.
Man, I hate to say it, man. That's why I came out with the video, about Black culture being concubine culture. Man, I know people don't like to hear that, but it's true, man. It's a feature and a function of our culture that Black men have always been pushed to the periphery. And it wasn't something that happened naturally. It happened due to slavery. Okay? And it carried on throughout Jim Crow. It might during Reconstruction and a little bit shortly thereafter, you might have saw an increase in Black men developing communities. But I mean, white people went in and I ain't gonna say they destroyed all of them, but I mean, they destroyed a great number of these autonomous communities where Black people established and set up themselves and built businesses and, neighborhoods and schools and
repeatedly. Yeah. They drowned them, they burned them, they killed people in mass. Go ahead.
And so, I mean, and then here you come the civil rights, movement, and ultimately, of course, Jim Crow was a backlash to all of that success and all of the progress. It was like, oh no, how dare you try to live and function and flourish and thrive in this culture? You're a low down, filthy nigger, and that's where you should stay. But at the end of the day, so in comes the civil rights movement, and Black people have this idea that we've to some extent achieved something, and so we can take a sigh of relief. But all of that stuff just went to another demographic. It didn't go to Black men. It didn't go to Black women principally. It went to white women principally.
Yeah.
And now they've pulled that away. Okay? At least in higher education. But they haven't pulled it away from white women.
No.
Because notice there's no talk of like shrinking or attenuating or drawing back Title IX or any gender-based initiatives at the university at all. There's no discussion or talk of any of that. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how this is going to impact Black women. I don't really think it'll impact them that much. But it definitely is going to impact Black men and their presence at the university.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And it will leak out into the job market. That's what everybody's really afraid of.
And this in the midst of empirical evidence demonstrating that like men all across the board are falling behind. Even white men are falling behind, or boys are falling behind, right? And the question is, I mean, why is this occurring? And for the most part, it's occurring principally because white women just hijacked the civil rights movement. They had like 60 to 70 years of programs that met their needs. Okay. And white women were already functioning and flourishing in American culture and society. I mean, for crying out loud, they owned slaves. They had domestics to do their work, even after slavery. They were part of the colonial project. I mean, these weren't women who were hurting. Okay. They weren't like suffering in a situation of, indigence or something like that, or they weren't destitute. Now, I mean, you have to ask the question, like, what's been the consequences of all this? And they won't take responsibility. I already know, like, white women are not going to take responsibility for it. So,
No.
And black women are just going to, like, because they've been, shoehorned into the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
Now women hijacking it, and now they have, their ass on their shoulders. And consider themselves to be magical, like they're like fairies or something like that. I don't know, or goddesses or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, they're goddesses.
So,
what she have on her tattooed on her neck? Goddess, right?
So I mean, like at the end of the day, I'm not saying that black women are innately or ontologically flawed, but I think politically they've taken a wrong turn. You took a left turn, and the table really actually, they left it a long time ago. They left it in the early 70s. It is what it is. And like, like Ron Neal said a long time ago, they broke the contract. They tore the contract. Right? We had a linked fate prior to the Civil Rights Act. We were together. There wasn't a separation. And then after the Civil Rights Act, here comes the separation. That is the demarcation line. And during that time, what do you think the Combahee River Collective is? We're looking after our needs first. That's the devolution of black politics into identity politics. That's the point, the precise moment in which it occurred. Now, you can blame it. You can say, well, it's black men's fault. Like, really? Like, I just don't see how it would be intelligent for any group of people, male, female, whatever, if another part of the demographic says, to hell with y'all, I'm taking advantage of policies that exist for me. You got to fend for your own. Sorry, Johnny. Well, then you got to fend for your own. You telling me I got to fend for my own. You put me in a position where I have to do for myself. But then you demand that I do something for you because that's what traditionally I'm supposed to do according to European culture or white, American culture. But then at the same time, you're telling us that we're the problem. We want to be white dudes. When in actuality, you really, no disrespect, but y'all want to be white women.
But there's a missing quotient to this. This is why I come back to this. There's a missing quotient to that. When is the last time y'all saw women in the freeway holding people up with a gun while buck naked?
Never really. This is really highly unusual.
This is an unprecedented degree, and it's not just happening once, right? We're seeing these kind of cracking of the sense of self-identity on a regular basis, and most particularly very recently. And we also know that there have been over 70,000 evictions in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just in the last few months. We also know black women are the most evicted demographic. I mean, you telling me these things have no connection? And that maybe what you needed to prevent from getting to this point are the very men that you think you have no time for.
Right. Exactly. If nothing else, but for survival.
Yeah. But I think we've reached somewhat of a kind of escape velocity. I think we've reached the point where a lot of this is going to deteriorate faster than we can actually, appreciate.
Yeah.
Because, men have checked out on a variety of levels. And when I say men, I'm talking about even down to just 13 and 14, just coming into your teen years. I'm seeing black men and boys talk about doing everything under the sun, except for what I used to hear when I was a kid, which is find you a good black woman and settle down, right? Because as Gigi said, the contract was broken a long time ago, but the impact of that contract is only just growing with each coming generation. You got people looking outside the country before they're even close to 18, talking about what countries they want to go find partners in, girlfriends in, wives in. You talking about monkhood, you're talking about brothers who are solely just free agent. There's so many different variations where men and boys have been reflecting on what alternatives they have over the women that predominate the communities they're in. That's profound to me. when I can have young men reach out to me and say, I'm planning to leave the country to find a wife. Doc, you got any advice? And I'm like, you're 10 years away from it. They don't care. They're talking about it. They're planning. They're thinking about it. All of this is happening already. And so the arrogance of coming to the table to talk about what you're going to let black men do so that they can learn a lesson is profoundly misunderstanding the situation.
Mm-hmm. And disrespectful. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And disrespectful too, because like I said, especially coming from that society, from that culture, which is nationalists, right?
Mm-hmm.
We constantly have nationalists in these spaces, basically ordering brothers to go back and sacrifice themselves for this community.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrifice themselves. Well, we get nothing. Okay, you don't get
Mm-hmm.
anything. You do it because you're a man,
right?
And brothers want to, want to choose something else, want to be happy. But no, you have to go back in here because you have to get on that sinking ship and save these people. And what are the sisters saying? Don't worry about them. Get your lifeboat. Put the mask on yourself.
Yeah.
Let them go. Let the ship sink. We're not going to try to save it. We're not going to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the stupidity of black nationalism is that it's operating from a Horatio Alger, John Henry, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, fight the man perspective. There has no, it's not based in reality.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, just real quick, I was going to say it's also not based in reality in the sense that if you don't regard how this gender divide has sufficiently undermined any ideology of liberation you have, because all of these speak to the breakdown of family formation in the black community. And if you have no family formation, no ideology for black community uplift works. It just doesn't. So you have to regard this split that's going on. And shout out to Mr. Me Too, who lays it out. He says, men asking them to come to the table was our last ditch effort to rebuild our community. That was our last expression of love for the sisters. But they said,
yes,
no.
Let it go. Yeah, let it go. So if they said let it go, guess what, bros? Okay.
Let it go. Let it
go. Let it go.
Yeah. But Gigi, I wanted you to continue. I just wanted to drop that in before you continue. But go ahead.
No, I just knowing what we know about. That's why, like the other day when I was doing a video, I pulled up one where Martin Luther King Jr. was being interviewed, and he was kind of discussing on the next phases of the civil rights movement, and he acknowledged that the easy part was the part that was dealing with ostentatious racism, like Bull Connor yelling, on a microphone, saying the N-word, or, hosing people down and things of this nature, and having dogs sicked on, young children. And and people being spit on. That's easy to fight against. But the more difficult thing was to actually usher in structural justice in the United States. He realized that would be the difficult part. And nobody's even making an attempt, especially black folks or any of these so-called woke people. They're more interested in recognition and being seen and being corporate shills and, trying to have a piece or a position for their own selves. And they're not really actually arcing towards structural or institutional justice at all. It's a hopeless, endless, ceaseless process of getting nowhere. It's like running on a hamster wheel. We're not getting anywhere. And so, but the fact that you got black nationalists who are asking for a group of people that have been disenfranchised from the outset of this country to change it by doing what? Like working hard? Like what is it that we're supposed to be doing here? Okay? Taking advantage of what opportunities to give to what community and in what manner? How? Okay, I just don't understand what the practicality of their conversation is. I don't get it. The idea is that men were supposed to go to war. Like even MLK understood. Like we have less than 1/10 of the manpower. Plus we got even less weapons to engage in any large warfare against these people. Like what we supposed to do? Like in a fantastical fashion, take up arms and just start like the Haitian Revolution, start killing white folks in the U.S. to make even the score, turn the tables. It's insane. It's idiotic. I don't understand what these guys want. And if you would ask them, You know, they'll say, well, you know, be a man. We want you to be, okay, well, be a man in what manner?
Die like a man, right?
I mean, what do you want us to do? Commit suicide? Revolutionary suicide? Like, what is it that you're asking for us to do here? So, I mean, there are no practical solutions outside of the context of what should have been done a long time ago, which should have been done during Reconstruction. It should have been done during the New Deal. It should have been done during the Civil Rights Movement.
Right.
Give black men an economic floor, and then you won't have women going crazy, off the rails. You won't have them begging, or you won't have them, you know, being bitches, demanding that, you know, the men are insufficient. You create the conditions that give rise to women being satisfied. That's what you do. And you do so by means of giving the black men a floor, giving them an economic floor. Working for policy initiatives that benefit them. Because when black men are doing well, the entire community does well. Because black men will actually try to provide for a family. Whereas women, you know, they're going to say, well, I need a man that is at my level or better. A man will be like, well, is she nice?
Right.
Will she, you know, be cooperative? Will she not try to destroy my life? Will she, you know, kiss me when I comes home and, you know, rub my head or something? You know, I don't see men saying, I need a woman who's going to make me, you know, live in a luxurious state. I don't see men saying that shit.
No, but we've all heard at the same time that your money is our money and my money is my money.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard this from multiple women over the years, right? So how exactly do you form a family formation with that attitude? Like, again, and I've said something along these lines before, we wouldn't be here if our grandmothers and older, if those generations and older had those philosophies, right? That you got to make the 6 figures of your day to be worthy of her, even if she doesn't have a pot to piss in, and that whatever money you have is their money, is y'all's money as a group, and whatever money she has is just for her. Black families could have even survived, especially through Jim Crow, with that kind of perspective. But that seems to be where we are now. And the quote unquote conscious women, if you come out of the conscious community, you know that you were taught that they were the salvation to any of these issues. That really, if you just, you know, found you were conscious when you were good to go. But the problem is when you start to notice the same gynocratic verbiage and practices in the conscious community as you've noticed outside of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the jewelry on this woman, she falls in line with that, right? The African practice, the Vodun, you can see the kind of all of that with the goddess on her chest. It's there.
It's there, yeah.
It's there, even for men. But even if you're able to find one, and I don't deny that cool ass women exist. I don't. I mentioned the Shahrazad Ali crew for a reason. I got none but respect for Shahrazad Ali or Art Kathy. I can name a few of them that are cool as hell and they're willing to speak the truth. But the reality is there are too few of the kind of women that say they don't have any connection to this gynocratic practice. There are too few that are willing to stand up and say this is bullshit. Too few. I've seen them, but they're too few.
Yeah.
And you can't tell millions of black men to wait on her. And hopefully she exists like some kind of unicorn. Doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna magically transform if you do certain things.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah. Doesn't work. And every time you question, okay, what do black men actually get out of this whole thing if they're gonna actually fall on their shield, fall on their swords like this? Not even a thank you.
Oh. And then you got stories like this from Bed Mike. I have a cousin that works for the government, makes 6 figures, complained about the dating scene all the time, visited Colombia once, now he goes every few months.
Yeah.
I've heard about it from South America to, you know, Caribbean to Africa to parts of Asia. Brothers are, you know, they're going to find what they're going to find. You know, I talk about it as peace. Other brothers, they're looking for sex. Other brothers are looking for wives, you know, whatever it is they're looking for. They're tired of sifting through bullshit after being shamed to do so in an environment where even the quote unquote most conscious women are talking about you like something off their shoe.
Yeah. Yeah. The very women they're trying to sell us are no good. Yeah.
And obviously I'm not talking about all of them, but I'm definitely saying there are too few there are too few willing to set themselves apart to make it clear that they not only don't support this, but actually can actively critique gynocracy practice in and of itself.
And first they have to admit that it exists.
And too few want to do that.
Too few actually want to do that because you can't blame the men then.
Absolutely. So I just, I just wanted to put this on the table and just kind of see, where brothers were with it, because I found it to be completely interesting. And the brother who sent it to me is out of the conscious community as well, and he was making a point. He was telling me this is everything. Basically, everything you're talking about, it applies to the Black community in all kinds of areas, including the areas we were taught were exempt from this.
Yep.
And he said something to me that was really profound. He said, not only have I listened, he was talking about the discussion I did on Dr. Umar.
Right.
He said, I have a lot of nationalist brothers that watched that video and agreed with way more of what you said than not. Matter of fact, more of what you said than Umar. Shout out to social clinician. What's good with you, man? Right? He said there's a lot of brothers that because they live it. They got the locks, they got the kente, they got the, they dress the part. It's the black velvet painting I talked about. They have all of it, and they came to find that there was a lot of performance and not a lot of substance in many of those situations. They were trying to play out a role that they were raised to believe was positive and beneficial to the community, only to find they were being used, and there wasn't a lot of substance to it at all. And those brothers are listening from the clouds, but they're there, and they reach out to me on a regular basis. So he sent me that clip specifically just to say to me, Doc, you on the right track. And even though you got cats that will never admit it publicly, they go home to wives, girlfriends, or intimate partners like this, and they're just as frustrated. Matter of fact, I've been telling people for the longest, the first passport bros I ever saw were out of the conscious community, coming back with African wives back in the 80s.
Yep.
These are the ones teaching Black studies courses. So in as much as you got cats like that telling you that the passport bros is a problem and it's ridiculous, ask them where his wife is from. And those cats are conscious about why they got on those planes to find those wives. Don't let them bullshit you. They went through everything you've gone through. They've been divorced, raped. They've been stood up on dates. They've had women take their money and use them. They've been manipulated into providing for kids that weren't theirs, and then they were tossed aside at the first chance she got the monkey branch. They've gone through all of it. They jumped on a plane, went to Zimbabwe, went to Ethiopia,
South Africa, Tanzania.
And then came back with a wife. So the nationalist, she got to be from Africa part of it to the side. What we do see is that they're still talking about actively finding women that are willing to play the role that they need them to play in their lives. So I would say, don't let anybody shame you, fellas, about where you plan to go or what you need to do to find whatever piece you're looking for. Go get it, and don't apologize to nobody for it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where it's being, because we all we got.
Yeah.
We all we
I'm
got.
sorry about that noise coming through, man. I can't turn it off. I'm sorry.
I ain't worried about it.
Yeah, you got some money, or we got
that's members, man. Recycling. Okay. You know how that goes.
Okay.
Oh, it kind of comes through like that. Right.
It's 7:00 or between like 7 and 7:15. It does that. It just all of the subscription renewals take place.
Okay.
So I'm not mad at it though. Thank you for all the people who not subscribe, but just who are members of the channel who help me to keep things going. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's in other words, we got 500 people watching. Y'all need to go and subscribe. Help a brother out.
Across all the different platforms, we're at 743. So hit the like button, please.
Yeah.
Now, Deborah makes a statement. I want to thank her for the $10, and I'm not, I'm going to be respectful. She says, I missed the first part. Can someone address traditional valued men taking back the church? Every guy can't travel. We must start here.
Okay. The thing is that if Black women are not willing to do their part, are not willing to help out, are not willing to help save this boat, why should Black men do this?
And the culture of the church is highly gynocratic.
That's why men aren't there.
Yeah, that's why men have left the church, for the most Black men in particular. Many have went to Islam, and I did a show a year or two ago where I had Muslims come up and they talked about the intrusion of the gynocracy in Islam.
Yeah, you know what? Going back to I think I've played that clip from 1970. Okay, and the one thing that the woman said about Black men taking charge, she said they're going to have to forcefully take it from Black women. Okay, so take back the church. Why should black men take back anything? How come we don't invite them in and allow them to actually do their job? Why do they need to take back something that's supposed to belong to them in the first place?
But this is the most alluring part, I think, of men traveling. When you run across, and even women, you know, that some of these brothers meet here, when you kind of come across a woman that doesn't challenge you to take something back, but offers it to you because they see the value in your leadership or your capacity to direct whatever the motivation is. When it's extended to you with respect, rather than someone picking up a sword and shield and saying, "Fight me for it."
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's Klingon, right? Because to become captain of a Klingon ship, you got to take it. You got to fight him for it. You have to kill the captain.
Let's just be frank about this, man. If black men were to fight black women, if black men were to fight black women in any capacity or in any regard, the first thing black women would do is call the police.
Go get the white man.
I mean, let's just be honest about this, man. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If you got to think about it. So if black men start to build a school for all boys, what's going to end up happening? First of all, white people are going to come in and say, "What are you doing? This is against the law." I'm serious. Like, it happens all the time. First, you'll have like white feminists will do it. White gay people will start doing it because they don't want like to separate sex, because that is a threat to them and their whole idea about sexual equality or whatever. And then black women will come in and then they'll also, you know, co-sign it. No, yeah, that's unjust. All right. So as soon as you start fighting, everybody just starts calling white people. You call Zaddy or Miss Ann, and then it's all shook up.
Yeah.
It's like telling on yourself. You say that you want men's involvement, but you do everything to circumvent them from actually being in any significant, authentic position of control and leadership.
You know what they want is the illusion, and this is what I think the black church has done for the longest. They'll support male pastors in visible positions of leadership, but the organization is fundamentally majority female. And so many of the pastors that we've grown up watching were catering to their female audiences, but those females are the ones that constitute the majority of the various boards and groups within the church in and of it. So I think that's the model that black women are the closest, you know, in terms of what we're talking about, the closest they're willing to get to what we're saying is that we will allow you the visage of leadership, but fundamentally you have to answer to us. And this is what a gynocracy does. It is framed around the use of black maleness, black masculinity,
right,
symbolically. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with her, and she's not about to give that up. So I see what the woman in that clip you're talking about was talking about, BGS, when she says you got to take it from us. But the problem is there are too many institutions that at her behest for her to use at the moment. She's uncomfortable, and there's no taking of power without discomfort. So black men are left to decide: do you really want to wrestle that from her, or do you want to build otherwise elsewhere in some other capacity?
Is she going to be cooperative after you take it from her, or is she going to be resentful?
Hell no. She's going to plot to take it back. But she has institutions operating on her behalf, and you got yourself.
So black women are the real Machiavelli, huh?
Well, I think what makes it's not that they themselves are fundamentally dangerous. It's that they're entitled, and they're entitled with very real institutions. I'm not talking about they watched a movie and felt, you know, a certain kind of way because the character was a woman and she beat up a bunch of dudes. No, she has the state operating at her behest. She can send your ass to jail with a false accusation, and they don't even have to ask her name or for any evidence. Her being able to do it is not because she just decided to wake up one day and be powerful. It's because she's been given that buffer class status. And so what I talk about is the danger of her using those institutions to manipulate and exploit men, black men in particular. And as long as that's at play, any kind of taking back does not work. Because when she gets pissed off enough at you, she can send your ass to jail.
Yep. She's been empowered.
You can lose your whole career behind some shit she felt like saying in a moment.
Yep.
And she'll be the first one at the jail to pick you up sometimes. Take you home.
That's old school.
You know, but this is the reality of what brothers are dealing with. So we can talk about thumping our chest, and the more manly we are, they'll submit. I'm like, all right, you can talk that mess if you want to. But the moment she's upset with you, she can even put hands on you, and you be the one to go to jail.
Yeah, it's called proxy violence. Huh?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as that institutional relationship is in play, that, you know, the things we're talking about in terms of reclaiming that, I don't think any of those things work, because you don't address the fundamental issue that undergirds all of that. She's been enabled by a group that seeks your downfall. The undermining of black men has been taking place for centuries.
Yeah. You are the designated underclass of the United States. That's your spot, which she hates, but she doesn't want you out of that spot either.
Yeah, but I mean, at least in the during the civil rights movement, black women, they understood that. At least, you know, like a person like Ida B. Wells understood, like, look, they're trying to destroy us by taking out our men. Like, we need to, like, have a last-ditch effort to stop this from occurring. And now it's like, you know, yeah, black women, like, lock his ass up, kill him, murk him.
Yeah.
You know, make sure he's destitute. If he's homeless, oh, well, whatever, Dusty.
Yeah, he was the child support payment. Lock him up.
Yeah, this, you know, get him.
Even at that time, you know, we also had women telling their daughters, you know, that I don't want you to be a wife at home cooking and cleaning. You need to be independent. You don't need a man. You need to be able to stand by yourself. This is the same time period, you know, where you had this kind of generational shift where women wanted to have their daughters, and that's principally Gigi, you and our generation, right? The Generation X, you know, women that came up not wanting to be anything like their mothers or grandmothers.
That's you know, I'm a 70s baby, so that's around the 80s, 90s, you know.
Because I'm
that's 20 years after you get the Civil Rights Act being passed.
Those women were born in the late 60s and the 70s, though. Generation X, we came to our teenage and adulthood in the 80s and 90s, but we were born in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And our mothers didn't want that, you know, for girls. Because remember, we were also the same generation. Tell me if this happened with you. We were the same generation that was taught to cook and clean, and that we needed to participate in that every bit as much as the girls in the household, right?
Yeah.
So it's always been the case. You know?
Now, but listen, let me be clear real quick. I'm not saying cooking and cleaning as a man is bad. What I'm saying is the motivation behind why we were taught was about equalizing this so that we can really diffuse gender roles. Right. That's what they wanted. They didn't want their daughters to have gender roles. They wanted everything to be everything, and they wanted the girls to be independent.
Right.
Boys, your job is just to find you a good black woman and support her. But they wanted the girls to be independent. And the earliest stages of that teaching was the boys and the girls cook and clean. Now, you've seen other families in other communities, right? The girls would clean and serve the table. Right. The boys, their age and even younger, would sit at the table and wait for their meal.
Yeah, I was at my son had a baby by a Latina, his first birthday, right? I witnessed that firsthand. Okay, exactly what you're talking about. You know, had like 40 Latinas there, 20 Latinas there with their men. Guess what they did? You know, they cook, clean, and serve. Okay.
So again, but I'm not saying that that's the only way it has to be. Right. I'm simply pointing out that the reason it played out that way in the black community was that those very same women were very clear about breaking those generational practices, and they wanted to shift that framework and have it all be the same. And the problem with that is they wanted men and women to play out, you know, this kind of same dynamic. There are no real differences, but under the table, men, you're still providing, you're still responsible for providing. But in every other capacity, we're going to get rid of any type of conservative, you know, kind of conventional family structure and gender roles, except for what men are expected to do to prevent women from having to deal with stress.
In other words, the traditional role is for men only.
For men only. But even that's not going to be talked about publicly, because, you know, nobody's going to call you. They're not celebrating you being the provider. That's an expectation of you. That undermines the idea of female leadership and autonomy and independence. So they wanted the offering, they wanted the presentation of independence, but they wanted the men to provide the structural foundation of it on a micro family dynamic and a framework for each family. They wanted men to provide that reality. They wanted women to enjoy the illusion of it if necessary. And for those women that could earn enough to where they didn't even need to get married, they wanted to celebrate them. These are the dynamics at play. And they're still going. And you want to check this Barbie movie and tell me what you think.
You know what? I've heard so much about that Barbie movie that disgusts me, man. I don't even want to see it.
I don't want to see it either. I already, even from what I was already told, they were like, yeah, all the Ken dolls live on the goddamn beach. I was like, what? They don't have houses. They don't have places. They're just there. And every night is female celebration night. I'm saying this is what people are, they're playing with. Right? This is supposed to be female uplift rhetoric, right? Head pastor and his wife recently told the women at the church I attend that they should not be competing for men. Okay, Stephen Dunn, appreciate that, F. Tanner. Stephen Dunn says, again, with regards to ADOS populace, why should we as ADOS men lament the passing of our community? If it dies, it dies.
Yeah, if it dies, it dies. So.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, I don't think you can prevent it anyway. So, and maybe if it's not functional, I think I was telling you this yesterday. Nature abhors creatures that can't survive on their own. Right? If it fails, they'll let it die. And if the Black community cannot function, in a free environment, a relatively free environment, maybe it does need to go away.
I want to revisit this statement by F. Tanner. The head pastor and his wife recently told the women at the church I attend they should not be competing for men.
Yep.
So if men are in the smallest supply in a given environment and they are sought after by a significant population, what other framework do you impose other than competition? And why would you denounce competition? What's the rationale behind that?
If you're competing for something, that means that something is the prize, and Black women want to be the prize.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to compete for something, then they're not the prize. They're not the most treasured thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've been told their whole life. And guess what the pastor's going to tell them? Because it's a gynocracy. They're not going to pay them to actually say that they need to compete. No, he wants to reinforce their beliefs, what they've been told and being socialized to actually believe about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That they have the golden vagina, and that's all they need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to lose weight. Okay, they don't want to cook anymore. They don't want to serve anymore. They want to be served, be entertained, have you do all the work. What, like Babyface says, I give love. That's what he means. Okay. Cook your dinner, buy your clothes, pay your bills. Okay.
Shout out to Wife School Podcast. Says Dr. Hasan, thank you for always reminding Black men they are intelligent and worthy. Shout out to my brothers in the panel in the chat. Appreciate the support.
Appreciate you.
But
yeah, I don't know what to think about it. At the end of the day, man, like it is the case. It is true that there are some structural conditions that bear against Black people, and in Black men in particular, that doesn't provide a great pool of Black men. Doesn't make a lot of Black men available, especially the kind of men that they desire available to them to date and to marry. Okay, but at the end of the day, I can bear witness to the fact that even if you are one of those guys who are so-called a member of the elite or the elect group of men, it still won't be acknowledged. It won't be honored. It won't be celebrated. I can tell you from experience, man. Like, you still a nigga. You still ain't shit. You still, you don't matter if you got a PH.D. It don't matter if you 6 foot tall. Don't matter if you 220 pounds. It don't matter, man. Don't matter if you pounding. I'm not gonna use the generative language of sexuality. That doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is that you are a nigga, and you need to, like water seeks its own level. You need to know where your place is.
Yeah. Shout out to Keke Palmer.
It's just unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I've been told, you think you're better than me. You think you're smarter than I am because of the degree you hold. You think you're more intelligent than I am, and you are humiliating and all of these kind of things. And it's like, man, look, nobody's humiliating you. You humiliate me by telling me that, what my intentions are. You don't know what my intentions are. Don't try to tell me to dumb down either, to act as if I don't know what I actually do know, to make you feel better or to make you feel comfortable. Then everything elides into subjectivism at that point. Mm-hmm. Well, it's just your opinion. This is my opinion. Like, look, there's some things that, like, a woman knows, and, like, some things that every individual knows that I don't know. But, like, don't start trying to get into conversations with me about politics. You're not going to win. You just haven't studied this shit as much as I have. I don't know why like a lot of people would even try to do that anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you just got a bachelor's degree, don't try to, debate somebody who's a specialist in social and political philosophy. You just haven't read enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not trying to, denigrate your opinion, but come on, man. You're not ready to box with me. You're not ready to step into the ring with me and have a political discussion.
Your arm's too short, huh?
Yeah, and you got deep pockets. you got short arms and deep pockets. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is, even men who are the cream of the crop, they still don't get respect, and they still suffer from the way that the system is arranged in such ways that are unjust and unfair to men. Just is what it is.
And it's structured like that, and that's what they don't realize. You took your man's place at the head of the table, and you blaming him.
Look, at the end of the day, if it could happen to Michael Jordan, if it could happen to Emmitt Smith, if it could happen to Luther Campbell, it can happen to you. I'm not saying these guys were pristine and that like they weren't doing things that they probably shouldn't have been doing. Maybe so, okay? But let's just be frank about this, man. Like, if it can happen to those guys are like the most alpha guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guys with the biggest bank accounts. If it can happen to them, it can happen to you, bro. You know what I mean? So I know guys who are making $100K and it still ain't enough for their women.
Yeah.
You should be doing more. Why aren't you ambitious? Like, this dude is in the top 4% of motherfucking earners. What you tripping off of? Like, the dude is already at I want more. Like, what are you doing at this point? Like, you want a reason to bitch, or you want a justification for being a bitch. That's how that shit goes, man. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
He's still dusty at 6 figures, okay?
Man.
I apologize, y'all. I had to try and make sure my system didn't go out again. But
okay.
Let's see. Now, Gigi, do you want to tell people what you're about to do, or?
But I don't know, man. I was supposed to do this show with BGS. Now, if he's too tired to do it, we ain't got to do it. We can table it.
We do it tomorrow. We do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow then. Maybe you could, help me, Dr. Johnson, if you want to help me do this show tomorrow.
Yeah.
You want to tell them what time or anything?
Well, the show right now is scheduled for 9:20 p.m. tonight, but what I'll end up doing is I'll reschedule it, and tomorrow we'll go on at like somewhere around 5:30, 5:45 or something like that after BGS does his show. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about an article by a woman named, I forget her name, Emba, I think it's her last name.
Yeah.
And she had an article about what's going on, I think, in what's going on with men.
Yeah.
It's like trying to understand the evolving nature of masculinity in a world that's rapidly changing. I mean, we don't have a manufacturing-based economy anymore. There's not a lot of exploration and conquest taking place anymore. So the world has changed, okay? And then you got shift in the labor market, as I said. Then you got the rise of so-called masculinity gurus like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and the like, right? Yeah. And they're having an influence on young men. And then you got this narrative that surrounds masculinity in progressive discourses, which kind of says that it's toxic if it's, performed a specific kind of way. And then, according to the gurus, it's kind of feminine if it's, performed another kind of way. And so the question is, in my mind, is why did it take a black woman to write an article for this kind of subject matter to pick up steam? Okay, because when white men were writing about it, like Richard Reeves, he got some sort of, some bites, some interest, but not nearly as much as this black woman. Okay,
right.
And so the question to me is, and I would pose to you two, and I have an outline and summarization of her article in the video that she made with I think Reeves and some.
It was Scott Galloway, I do believe. Yeah.
Scott Galloway, yeah. So I basically summarized the article because I definitely don't. It would be too much to read it. It's a long article. It would take 50 minutes to read by itself. Okay, and so I summarized it. And so the question is who's right, who's wrong, what's going on with masculinity? Now I'll tell you this: when white people are starting to pay attention to masculinity,
Right.
Then you know something's about to, eventually something's about to be discussed in a more substantive and an authentic manner than it's been discussed before.
Right.
Okay. So that's what you know. That's what I know. So the question is like, where are white people about to take this subject matter? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally can't say, but I know that some things are changing in terms of what's going on the right in their politics. But I don't really trust right politics. I think it's very anti-black. But I think leftist politics is also anti-black, so that's not really saying much.
Well, and the left is trying to establish some type of approach to masculinity or issues regarding men. They're trying to establish it because the right is so far for a while now. The right has been the only one willing to speak on it, even if problematically at times. Doesn't matter. They're the only ones talking, and the left is noticing the attention. So they're trying to craft their own approach. And it's questionable if there are any testicles involved, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and a lot of the left the guys that are on the left are becoming monks. They're not dating anymore. So it's becoming a problem to the women that are progressive and feminists and sexualists. Basically, they're not getting the men that they want, that they were promised.
But this is what they asked for. Like, how dumb can you be? Like, you created the conditions in which, like somebody like Camille Paglia would say, you have ground men down. Starting from their infancy to try to shape and mold them. They terraformed masculinity, and they've taken over aspects of masculinity that they find desirable for themselves. They've accommodated what they consider to be the positive features of masculinity. Okay. My issue with it is, this is, you're playing around with viewpoints and with nature in ways that you don't know the outcome of. Okay. And so, the fact that this is a social experiment, it's been taking place for the past 60 years. We don't know what the end results will be. But I know one thing. I mean, what woman is going to be happy with a man that's ground down? If you really want a man, not like, somebody who's like deferential and like a sassy man, If you want a real man, then, and I hate to, I don't really like to use sassy and sissy for real because I think it's deprecating. But at the end of the day, come on, man. Like, if you want a real man, then you have to allow men to exist apart from your surveillance and your hyper scrutiny. And they haven't done that for the past 60 years. And they've used law as a means by which to hold the sword of Damocles over the heads of all men to make sure that they're not doing this. They're not acting that way. I mean, even looking at a woman now can trigger a fucking charge. It's crazy.
Well, and superficially, going back to the right or left dynamic, we got the right wing claiming the family, the nuclear family, and the conservative traditional notion of that, and then you got the left where the men are checking out. In terms of what BGS was saying, this is not a favorable dynamic to a lot of these people, but this is where they've led the discussion because they didn't really want to hear men and boys speaking for themselves. They wanted to tell men and boys what they should believe, and that fell apart as a strategy. Well,
what they did was it's the sign language that like Kevin Samuel talked about so much. It's just like you just shame the shit out of men. It's like the one guy who wrote the book Anatomy of Female Power. It's like you penis twisted men. You turn men into penis twisted, pram pushing punks.
Yeah.
and now you're like, okay, well, I don't want that type of man. To me, that and women are demanding that they have equality, but then at the same time, you want these manly men. Well, and then if you exercise manly masculinity, then they call the police on you, or they try to get you fired from your job. It's like, what the fuck do you want us to do? It's like this is insane.
I saw a woman on the left do a video about how she was trying to ask her audience how the women in the left could deal with conservative right-wing men because they were still men, even though they didn't agree with their politics. But how could they be in relationships with those men because they were still men? And she was doing it because she was saying the problem in the left is that the men were too milquetoast.
I mean, you made them sassy. Just imagine every time you turn around, you got to ask your wife, like, is that okay? Can I go out now? Is it okay for me to leave? Or some shit like this. Like, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's like you got to ask women permission to do shit. And that's just not what men traditionally have done. Right? Like, where you just kind of like make sure that everything that the woman desires, all of her needs are met and all of this. Like, men have never performed that way. And I mean, you know, at the school, you have to perform, you know, some sort of, you know, virtue signaling or some grandstanding to show that you're on the right side of justice related to gender-based issues. Like, BreadTube is chock full of dudes, man, who, you know, kind of perform masculinity the way that the left wants it to be performed. Like, and those BreadTube guys, I'm not saying all of them are ridiculous, but come on, man, like you got your nuts tucked real tight to the tank area.
And most women don't like those kind of guys.
Man, I mean, I've even been impacted by this as, you know, somebody who's matriculated through a graduate school. Like they bombard you with feminist ideology, man. I mean, it's just like endless.
Yes.
The various ways in which you've been insufficient and deficient for acknowledging and respecting and recognizing their womanhood, and like how oppressive you are and how violating you are and how dominating you are and how just your presence arouses fear. Now, it's difficult for them to do so in the context of race because, you know, they don't want to cross that line either, okay? But, man, I mean, it's some weird shit because, I mean, I'm a 6'3" black dude, man. I weigh 215, 220 pounds. So if you see me, you're going to automatically be that's a big nigger. You know, for them, okay? Because, you know, most of them, you know, people in graduate school, let's face it, man, they kind of effect. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've been there.
Soft, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't go to the gym or, you know, they just drink cafe lattes and shit, and, you know, crostinis and shit like that. That's like, you know.
Trying to be as non-threatening as they can, huh?
Well, it's a different aesthetic. It's a different value system. It's a different way of approaching life. Like I used to do construction work, man, and then go to grad school.
Yeah,
so
no.
you gotta think, like I'm coming to school. I'm dirty. My fingernails got dirt underneath them. I got scratches all over my arms. I might be cut up in places and stuff like this. I'm coming in. And some guys like got to carry a messenger bag or some shit like that. I'm like, it's a different vibe, man.
No, it's definitely a different aesthetic, and I would say coming across as harmlessly as possible seems to be part of that aesthetic. And I know what you're talking about because it got to the point where, you know, when your professors won't even meet with you alone because they're afraid of you, or they like require to meet with you in a public space. That's when I knew that there was a difference in the aesthetic of graduate school and how I presented myself. And it had very little to do with anything I did on purpose. But at the end of the day, they took one look at me. That was it. So navigating grad school with faculty and administrators that don't want to be alone with you in the same room is some different shit.
Well, they never went so far as to like that with me, though. I mean, you know, but I've had some experiences where, you know, like some students though have they've done some shit to try to destroy your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, crying and shit in the room, and then you know, like demanding that I change their grade and shit like this. Like,
oh, you talking about your students? Okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, man, if you don't get the fuck up out of here, man. like them tears mean nothing to me. I'll tell them too. Your tears mean nothing. I don't care. You know, pull your shit together. Get yourself together now. You know what I'm saying? Because this is I know what it's like to fail a course. So you're mad you don't have an A. You didn't fucking earn it. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So look, at the end of the day, man, all I can say is we're gonna have a conversation about, you know, masculinity, and hopefully, you know, you two can join me tomorrow. If you don't, you know, if you got some things to do, it's cool. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I'll be there.
I'll let you know, man. I gotta check a few things first. But I do appreciate you coming up tonight, man. It was especially last minute, but thank you. You know, I want to make sure people know. Go check out Gigi's show. Check out now. You gonna do one tomorrow, BGS?
I'm doing part 2 of it's game week, so I'm doing part 2 of basic game. So I did the acquisition phase, and now we're getting into the basic acquisition phase. Now is targeting your market and perfecting your style. So all this approaching and dating coaches and stuff like that, with all this woo-woo stuff, now we're gonna strip it all down to the basics and get right down to something you can actually do right now.
Okay.
Simplify it, you know. Best game is simplifying it.
There it is. Well, I appreciate both of you. I really thought y'all might want to sink your teeth into this one, so I'm glad you did.
Oh yeah. I got my response is coming. Okay, to that last video. Okay, I got words about this table and her. Okay, but I have to respect the academic setting that I'm in right now. Okay.
Oh, I told you didn't have to do that.
Oh no. You know you can get that call into that office. Dr. Johnson, that last show you did, sir. Who's that guy? You know, how come you didn't censor him? You know.
No, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, man, look, black women already walked away from the table a long time ago, man. Like, so it ain't no news to us. It's like, okay, that's late. Like, I mean, even like, who was it? Like, I think it was some other lady that did something similar. Like, leave black men be. Don't mess with them. Go ahead about your business, girl. Like, y'all been doing that.
Yeah. But black men need to hear it though. But they need to hear it just like she put it.
I guess,
just
man.
Just like she put it. You basically break that table. Okay. Don't come back. Let it burn. Let it rot. Let it go up in flames. Let the boat sink. You know, in no uncertain terms. And the way she looks, you know, she's not no ratchet. She ain't no divester. She ain't none of that kind of stuff, right? She's exactly the kind of woman the kind of people that beg black men every day to come back and save this community. Okay, so they need to hear it from a person like her.
I wanted brothers to see the beads she was wearing, the bandana, the tattoos. I wanted them to see all of that.
Yeah,
I wanted them to see all of it because, again, in the conscious community, you were taught that was the salvation. With all of the craziness going on, you know, even in the black community in the West, you always rely on that particular dynamic. And when brothers started talking about how the gynarchy is very well represented in the conscious community as well, you know, there was a little bit of back and forth about it, but there was also a lot of silence for men in the conscious community as well. And those are the brothers that will reach out to me under the table. And you know, once you get them talking, it's like, man, they're basically saying the same things that brothers in other circles, especially in red pill circles, are talking about. They really are.
Yeah.
You recognize the same thing. They've already gone through the same. I mean, you start talking to conscious brothers in their 60s, and they start telling you stories about divorce, start telling you stories about who left who and who did what to him, and what it will blow your mind.
Yep.
They talk about, and the reason they do is because they're, at the end of the day, they're black men. So when we congregate as black men to exchange stories and compare notes, you have demographics, you have whole groups of black men that want to disassociate so that they don't get held accountable for being associated with these brothers talking shit. When you get a beer in them and you get them private conversation and start talking, it's like, dude, they got the same black experience that most of the brothers I talk to have had in one way, shape, or form.
They're just not talking about it. That's all.
Yeah.
Call that silent protest.
Man, I see people out in public in Texas, man, and I see Latinos with their women and shit. It's just I don't know, man. I can't dig into the inner essence of their relationships and shit, but it just seems like a different vibration.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been with a black woman, black woman try to walk in front of you, walk away from you, you know what I'm saying? But then want you to be around if a problem arises, you know. Just like, it's like, come on, man. Like, what the fuck is this, man? Like, it's insane, man. Like, it's like too much effort. And then it's like, okay, I done already smashed you about 50, 60 times. Like, why am I shouldn't have to chase you no more. I done already smashed you. Like, there's nothing left for me to chase. You know what I'm saying? What are you, it's insane behavior, man. You know what I'm saying? Always having to, assert yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then, especially these chicks that got children already, man, it's a bad recipe, man, because you'll never be the head of that family. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, I ain't got shit to prove to you or your kid, man. You know what I'm saying? Now if I say fuck both of y'all, then I'm messed up though, right? That's just crazy though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you leave them somewhere, cause they'll leave you in a minute or let you know that you ain't the boss. But if you turn around and do the same type of shit that they doing, then all of a sudden you derelict on your manly duties or whatever. Man, dumb, man.
And have men will come in and shame you for the exact same thing.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Messy. Y'all check her channel out. She be killing me.
Messy Machine. Messy Machine. Oh,
yeah.
the Messy Machine is a great title for her channel too.
No, man, that's crazy.
She does some excellent work, and if you catch her, she likes to do a lot of She likes to do a lot of the stuff on evictions and shit. But she will hit you with some interesting information. So y'all check her out when you get a chance. But BGS, you told me about a birthday party attended once, and you made an observation. Are you willing to talk a little bit about that in relation to this?
I was talking about my grandson's first birthday party yesterday. The other
Yeah,
day.
man.
Yeah, about the Latinos. Yeah,
Just what you saw about how they related and what you know.
What I'm saying is that black women complain about serving and catering and be submissive to their men, right? I noticed because like my son is getting ready to marry a Latina, right? And and he has his third child with a Latina, and so they had his first birthday party, and I'm noticing the difference between black women and Latina women, right? So you had they all came together, we all coupled off, all with their men, okay? But it came down to serving, okay, getting plates, okay. The men sat, and then the women all got up and and prepared the plate, brought it back, had a conversation. You could see how the way they sat, the softness of their voices. There wasn't a lot of yelling and hollering and screaming, stuff like that, or acting out, right? Like you see in a black community, right? They're all submissive, they're all quiet, they're all well behaved, okay, and of all ages. We ain't talking about women that are in their, I saw one woman that's got to be at least in their 70s, all the way down to women that were like in their early 20s, okay. And they all sit next to each other. You can all see how catering they are to the men. Okay, they walked in with with their men side by side, sometimes slightly behind, and it's like a throwback to the 50s almost.
Okay,
almost throwback to the 50s.
Yeah.
But that's how they're trained. You can see the training. Like when I first met my son's soon to be wife. Okay, you could see the difference between her and black women. Okay, the softness of her voice, how she talked to him, right? How she caters to him. Now when it comes down to business, okay, she's got the degree and she handles business, and she'll get on him if she has to handle business. But you can see especially out in public, how she's very different with him.
So it's a demonstration of respect.
Demonstration of respect, demonstration of submissiveness, how she speaks to him. I've never heard her raise her voice at him. Okay, ever. And here, not one woman in the whole place. Normally, then they had drinks, they had beers, they had little libations, but you never heard them get out of pocket or raise their voice to these men.
Who was it? I think it was Robert Staples that said something to the effect that black women they place more emphasis on being mothers than they do wives.
Oh, yeah, they do because and I've said this. I actually said this to May when I actually talked to her. Right, she asked me why. I said this is a survival tactic, a survival item that for black women to actually survive, right? Because a black man's life was uncertain, so all the resources had to be poured into the women, right? Women and children. So black women grew to actually see, even from the plantation on up, right? You can actually see it from the plantation through Jim Crow, through emancipation, through Jim Crow, right? Basically, even the black feminists say what is a black family? It's a woman and her children, right? BLM before they changed it, what was in their charter, right? What was a black family? A woman and her children.
Oh yeah, right.
That's why I said, bro, like you can believe it or not, you can get mad at it or not. Black culture is concubine culture, man. It's an extension of concubine culture.
It is.
It is. Just it means that the concubine culture really actually stems from black men not being a part of the traditional family structure in the black community because white men at any moment can have their way with them, and they control, who gets the resources. And they made sure that the woman was the one who got the resources primarily so that she could produce more children.
More children.
And docile children at that. Less combative, less militaristic, less problematic children.
Yeah, even if that's how come Mama's always right. Mama's always controlling the boy. Mama always has her thumb in her hand on the black boy's neck, right, to control him. Okay, I can't tell you how many times that in a white community or a Latino community they want to meet your father. Okay. Whereas in the black community, they want to be mama first because they know mama is the boss. And that's been going on for a very long time. And I mean, if you go back in the literature, man, they've been saying it for like 100 years. It's not new. Not new. It's not new. The thing is, we allow this myth. You know, what did Robert Staples write? The myth of the black matriarchy, the denial of a fact. It's been going for such a long time. Because what did a young lady just, you know, that we just talked, that just was talking about the table, right? What did she say? She imbued that let them fail. They'll learn who is actually protecting them and doing for them and actually holds up this community, and it's not you.
But the communities are, man, look, the community had failed from the very beginning it started. Like, I mean, come on, let's face it, man. We came over here as slaves.
Yeah.
Okay? This is just the facts, man. Okay? Now, people, for some reason, black people, black nationalists do this, and I think it's absurd. They act as if we lost some war with white people.
Yeah.
We never did. I mean, we lost a war with other African people who then sold us off to white people who already had us in chains. So black people put each other in chains, then sold them to white people who subsequently packed them onto ships and transported them into other parts of the world.
Yeah. And then when that wasn't enough, it was too expensive, they actually bred you from scratch.
You know what I call that, though, what you just broke down, Gigi? I call it black pill, black history, right? No, I'm serious.
Well, I mean, somebody needs to tell it, man, because it's not being told the way it should be told.
No, it isn't, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because you and I know what's expected of us in the university is to provide a narrative that's very kind of PC. But when you start talking about it from that vantage point, that's the narrative nobody wants to hear. And I call it black pill, black history for a reason, because BGS, I've heard him break it down in two different ways that I thought are not talked about enough, in terms of black history and in terms of Pan-Africanism. And I talk about both the ways he does it as black pill, which is something I heard reiterated by Ronald Neal when he met with O'Shea in Africa. He talked about Pan-Africanism without romanticism. I think where we are for particular men who are at a point where we actually want the reality and no longer the window dressing around the history, around the politics, around the ideas about what it is we need to do at the next stage. We have to be able to deal with the reality that nobody wants to talk about. And I think that's what you were just giving an example of, right? Is that black pill history.
Yeah, so I'm just tired of hearing black women talk about black men being conquered and all of this. Like, we were born into slavery and we were born into a concubine culture. Like, that you couldn't be protected against. Like, I mean, in MLK, like, I'm gonna put a snippet of the video I did the other day, I think Saturday, Short Bus. I'm gonna put a snippet together so people can see it. And it's basically MLK talking about, like, the tactical position of black people in U.S. society. Like, how many black men exist in the United States at the current moment? Most people can't give you a number, but let's think about it, okay? Black people make up anywhere between 12 to 13% of the population, okay, in the United States. We exist somewhere around 40 million, okay? In terms of black people as a whole, okay? Including men, women, and male and female children, okay? Now, what part of the population of adult males who are war ready, how many of them exist?
Right.
I would argue you got less than 10 million. That's my viewpoint. Like, you got less than a quarter of the population, okay, or battle ready, okay, a battle ready age, and that's not even counting like the elderly or anything. I'm not even excluding them, okay. Now, how many white people exist in the United States, man? Like, what's the number? They exist somewhere around 65% of the population. The males somewhere around 30%. Okay? How many white dudes are there, man? Versus black dudes. You outnumbered 7 to 1, 8 to 1. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a fight with any man. Okay? Whether he's big or strong. Like, punching. Do it for 3 minutes and see how hard it is. Just hitting pads, not getting hit back.
Hitting the bag.
I'm serious. Like hit the bag for 3 minutes and then take a 30-second break and then do it again for 15 rounds.
Oh yeah.
And see whether or not you actually can do it. Most guys are not in shape because most men in this country are like pillows. I'm just being honest. Okay? So even black men, even though they act hard and all this kind of shit and shoot their guns sideways like on the movies or something.
They shoot sideways.
I'm being serious. But okay, so look, at the end of the day, you're outnumbered. Then not only that, where are your guns at? Your munitions. You don't have munitions.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you might have like some AR-15s or something. That's a semi-automatic rifle. That's a small bore rifle, man. We talking about a military that has automatic weapons, man. They'll eat your ass alive, bro.
Yeah. Where you know, in the basis of where you get your food, water, and clothing, that you really fight wars on. Soldiers have to eat.
Man, I'm just saying, in the context of the U.S., I'm not saying that black men have never, like you had people like the Deacons of the Defense, Black Panthers, and so on. But you see what happened to the Black Panthers, and they were armed.
Yeah.
Them motherfuckers let off one round in a city, man. The police came in there and shot up that motherfucker, put 5,000 bullets in the air, man. And the Black Panthers let off one shot because they didn't want to get gunned down, you know, like because they knew that they were outgunned. And so, you know, I mean, you got to be intelligent, man. You got to be strategic. I'm not saying that you should. This ain't Haiti, man, where like there was like a black population that outnumbered the whites. This is the safe hold, the stronghold of white supremacy, man. It was set up that way. They wouldn't allow their slave population to outnumber the white population. And they did that purposefully, man. These people knew what they were doing, man. They was like, okay, I see what happened in Haiti and Saint Domingue and all them places. Fuck that. We ain't doing that. We saw what happened in Brazil and Mexico. We ain't doing that. Okay? So, just come on, like, black nationalists, come on, let's be real, bro. You fired the first shot then. I don't see, like, no disrespect to people like IBMOR or whatever, but I ain't never seen them bang with no white folks, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you know, like, there's no evidence, like, of stories and folk tales surrounding how, like, Hasan Johnson and another contingency of black men, like, won some kind of skirmish between blacks and whites and shit, and even the score. Like, and then people heard about it, and they could say, "Hey, let's join the cause" or some shit.
Have you what's the name of the group that was recently trying to do something along that lines, carrying arms? And
Grandmaster Jay, was it the new was it New Black Panthers? Or
I think it was didn't they call themselves like the Not Effing Around Crew?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we ain't fucking around. One of them shot themselves in the leg and shit, bro. I'm like, come on, man.
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, that's some fucking like Beetle Bailey type shit, man.
Wait. No, somebody shot themselves in the leg?
They was fucking around while they said they wasn't, and fucked around and shot themselves, and one of them shot themselves in the foot.
I don't forgot why I brought them up. Now I didn't
because Grandmaster Jay is doing 7 years.
Is he doing 7?
Yeah, for pointing a gun. For just pointing a gun. Not shooting it, but pointing it.
7. I ain't laughing at the bill. I'm just blowing time. 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
But you had a white boy that recently was out there in the streets, killed the motherfucking nigga. And he's exonerated and shit. He probably got a white collar job right now, fucking at a fucking investment firm, probably.
Well,
hey buddy, you fucking killed that nigga. Yeah.
If you do kill a church full of them, then at least stop and get you some fast food on the way to jail.
Here we go.
I'm just saying, you know. But anyway, man, I appreciate both of y'all coming through, and I hope that you guys will tackle this video separately, especially BGS. I'm looking forward to hearing what you do with it. And as usual, I'm interested in what y'all have to say in the comments. We're over, again, I'm looking across multiple platforms, about 5, because I'm on Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and of course YouTube, broadcasting live right at this moment. We got 724 people watching. Please make sure you hit the like button, and support both these brothers here. Please make sure you support BGS IBMOR. Please make sure you support the Green Gorilla.
And also, please, please, please go take a look at Doc's book that's on pre-order. Okay, it's the first academic Black manuscript book to come out. So please go take a look at it. If you can, please buy it. Encourage more.
I appreciate that because I was smooth about to forget. So y'all, I'll be forgetting a lot too. This is ridiculous. But anyway, here's the link. The link is in the description box already. Check out the book, support it. Pre-sales are available, and the book ships on August 15th. So, I hope y'all support.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you. So now we just waiting to get Green Gorilla and BGS to get their books out. So y'all make sure you give them some motivation on a regular basis, because brothers got shit to deal with in life. So motivate them to finish. We're looking forward to more and more brothers getting stuff published, and getting our work out there. Right? So appreciate that. But all right,
man. Keep it pushing, man. I'll holler at you.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right.
Peace.
BGS. Peace. So y'all know the deal. I want to hear your thoughts about this kind of stuff. And I know we bounced around all over the place. That's how it is sometimes. But at the end of the day, I'd say the first 40 minutes of today's show should lay out for you what we're talking about. We're looking at the state of affairs, the state of the relationship, the state of the dynamic between Black men and women as it relates to negotiating, and where we are at this point. And I want to hear your opinion. I want you to write in the comments what your thoughts are. I want you to support the channels, the brothers who are dealing with it, so we can continue to develop this. So support Growth Talk Kofa, support Mr. Z's channel, support Layman's Journals channel, support Artisan MC. There's so many brothers that are tied to this. Continue to support all of their channels. Dr. Thunder, Keep It 100. There's so many brothers that we need to support and really encourage this dialogue, because it's a diverse number of brothers with different perspectives, for one. And for two, there's really no other space or time where we've actually had a chance to enjoy engaging one another and developing our thought process and providing resources to one another in terms of ideas, in terms of past ways we've negotiated problems that others may not know about. Sharing that information can be the difference between success and failure. Hell, it can be the difference between life and death in certain dynamics. So please make sure we support one another. Other than that, I will holler at y'all soon. I hope y'all have a good night. Peace.
Yeah.